being recorded.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Oh, I just realized you got the, I don't know what it is, but you just got this look going on. You got the haircut, you got the big beard, mashallah. You got the turtleneck. Okay, it looks like semi-turtleneck.
You know how it is, Akhi.
What is that?
Sometimes.
What is that look?
I don't know. I've had this
What you're
jumper for
missing?
years, bro.
You just need some glasses.
Hold the phone.
Like clear glasses.
Hold the phone. Here they are. Yeah.
Maybe some Cartier glasses.
Oh, baby. Let's have a look. These are probably some cheap, fancy dress glasses, but let's put them on. There we go.
Yeah, come on, bro. I don't know what this is like.
Wow.
This is the new era of like crazy Muslim scientist / fashion designer.
It's just what we do on Mind Heist, isn't it?
Bro.
It's just what we do on Mind Heist.
Barça Clown.
Astaghfirullah al-Azim. What do they say in Zaire? Shapish.
I don't know, Shafiq, bro.
My wife's going to see that.
That's cool,
you said
though.
it all wrong.
Shafiq. Do you guys say, what do they
like
say in Libya? Halba? Halba?
Oh, well, bro, I don't know, man. You say you guys like I'm from Libya. I don't know.
No, I'm asking, do you say that? Because
no, we don't say no.
Mine, maybe you say as well. Okay.
Nah.
Because here we have, in the 4 countries, okay, we got 4 different ways of saying a lot. You guys your own little country has its own word, Barsha, right? There's an area in Dubai called Barsha, but I don't know if it's a different thing. But anyway, it's called that. Okay, then we say Bazaf, and then in Morocco, what do they say? They say Bazaf.
They say Bazaf in Morocco, yeah.
Yeah. And then in Libya, they say Halba, apparently.
Ah, okay. There's probably, Zaire is so big, though, it probably has a big variety. Maybe closer to us that it says Barsha as well. You know?
Maybe, yeah. And then I asked ChatGPT, what are the origins of all these words? And because there was this thing where like Bazaf came from Arabic, but it doesn't, bro. They all come from Berber, apparently, apart from maybe Barsha comes from Arabic and the others don't. I can't remember now. But yes, how was your Ramadan in Tunisia, man?
Oh, it's Tunisia. Wow. Forgot about that. Bro.
What?
I forgot that was something we could talk about.
When do you get back?
Yeah, I got back on Saturday, and it is, what day is it today? Today's Tuesday. Okay, so I've had a few days.
Is that Tunisian haircut or a UK haircut?
I was in Tunisia. It's interesting because I didn't even speak to the barber. I just sat down and I was waiting for him. I thought he was kind of setting up, but he just kind of got on with it. So I was like, oh, okay.
Okay.
So
you just told him he went to Shishalahia.
Well, he just knew. He just did what he thought, so.
Bro, you were just a canvas for his self-expression.
Exactly. That's kind of what happens in our neighborhood. You just let them loose. Where did I go? What did I do? Another trip of bureaucratic businesses.
Adventures.
Yeah. But alhamdulillah, I think I achieved a lot. So one of the key reasons I went this time was I had a court hearing in my local town court. And the reason I had a court hearing was essentially a tenant has taken over a property of ours. So when my father died, my father built like a block of a building block, and it has different kind of businesses inside. One of those buildings is an apartment, and in this apartment, he rented to a man who works in the local council and has a family, and good guy or whatever. Apparently, anyway, the day my father died, or that week, 3 years ago now, I contacted all the tenants, introduced myself, and told them, business as usual. And when I get there, I'll meet you all and, we'll carry on as usual. Reason being is my grandmother and my auntie, that is their livelihood. Like, that's how they live. That's how they eat and drink, etc. I don't really use any of that money over there. You can't bring any of that money into the UK, so it's all for them to eat and drink and survive. Everyone was good. Everyone was fine, apart from this one guy. He was like, "Oh, you've got the wrong number, mate. Don't know who you're talking about. I'm not so and so."
Whoa.
So I
New
was like,
phone, who
"Okay,
dis?
yeah, who this?"
Have you ever bought something from a shop and then you want to return it? You want to get your money back, but you just keep delaying actually going back to that shop to return it, give the receipt, and get the money back. This is what might be happening if you're procrastinating. You've got something that you can really make a big go at. You can achieve big things in your life, but you keep putting it off until one day it'll be too late. If that's you and you're a Muslim man and you've got big ambitions for your life, but you're not taking action on them, you're procrastinating about it, then check out my YouTube channel, because every single video there is for people like you to help you. So check out the link in the description and you're going to enjoy those videos if that sounds like you.
So I was like, okay, well, my dad had two numbers registered for this guy. So I thought, okay, maybe it's a different number. So I called the other number. Oh, no, no, you got the wrong number, mate. Like the same guy, but he's saying you've got the wrong number, right? This is back then. So cast your
Yeah.
mind back to that time. So I was like, okay, this is really frustrating. And he's also stopped paying rent. Like he just stopped paying, And all the other tenants went to him and they were like, "What are you doing, mate? Like, why are you doing that? That's really disrespectful, you know." Nah, I don't know what's going on, so I'm not going to pay anyone. And when my dad was in the UK, they would pay rent to my auntie, you know. They would pay rent to my grand, or they would come to the house and pay their rent. Um, and everyone was very good about that. But as soon as my dad died, this guy just thought, "Oh no, I'm going to use the excuse of, oh, I don't know who's inheriting and all this nonsense to." But we'd already called ahead and said, "Listen, just carry on business as usual." Anywho,
No.
I went to Tunisia the first time after my dad died. First or second, I can't remember. I think it was the first time. My uncle was with me and he spotted the bloke on the street just randomly. So I was like, "Oh, sweet." So I went over there, just went up to him, and I kind of stuck it on him, really. And I was like, "That's really disrespectful. Like, how can you say that it's the wrong number and pretend you don't know who I am and all this stuff?" He gave me this wishy-washy excuse. Anyway, he started paying rent. Fine.
Okay.
But I said to him at the time, because I didn't trust him, I didn't like that behavior. I was like, "I don't really want you renting anymore. I'm going to give you 3 months, which is a standard procedure. 3 months and you can find somewhere else." And then I went back, maybe 3, 4 months later. "Have you found anywhere?" "No, I haven't." "Oh, I've been looking. I haven't found anywhere. I've been looking. I haven't found anywhere." That's a load of baloney. I know that there's a lot of places to rent, etc. But whatever, I'll give you until September, I said. Um, October, I went in July, actually. I went in July and I told him until September. He didn't find anywhere. But when I went back in October, because my grandmother died in
Uh-huh.
October, so I went back and October 2023, and he said he hasn't found anywhere. No, still haven't found anywhere. So I was left with, this is an excuse, obviously. So I was left with no choice
I
but
haven't
to
found
get a lawyer.
anywhere because I haven't looked for anywhere.
Exactly. He hasn't looked anywhere. So I was left with no choice but to go down the legal route. So I had a lawyer, and we had to go to it's called what is it called? Ad Munafid, and they essentially notify them legally that you need to leave this property. At the same time, I opened up a case against him because as soon as I did that, oh yeah, somewhere in between this, sorry, he stopped paying rent to us and he started leaving the rent money at a hairdresser, like a local hairdresser woman. Anyway, it's like a mutual, because he didn't want to engage with my family at all. I don't know. So he would say, "Oh, I've left it at this place. Go and pick it up." The woman was really nice and stuff, and she's like a friend of my auntie's, but it was like a no man's land in between, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, oh god. As soon as I opened the case, he stopped paying rent. So he's like, "Oh, I'm not paying rent. That's it." So suddenly we've got this guy just in the flat, refusing to pay rent, refusing to leave, and that's since October 2023.
Whoa.
And what is it now? It is now March 2025. So there's been like a court case running up and down, back and forth, different towns. It's just taken a long time. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, you should," a lot of people in the UK, they're like, "Oh, you should just go down the old school route and send a bunch of goons to the flat and bring him out by force."
I was just going to
And you
say the
just,
exact thing.
yeah, well, a lot of people think that. But it's goon for goon, right? You send goons to him, and he'll send goons to you. You know, uh, why would I can't open myself up, or not even myself, my family up? You know, my auntie, my
Yeah, because you
grandmother's
don't even
passed
live
away,
there.
so it's
Yeah.
my auntie. Yeah, my auntie's on her own, and she could just get run up on or threatened or whatever. Like you, you don't want to risk that. And as long as there is a path, a legal pathway, then I'm going to follow that pathway until I've hit a brick wall, and then I'll think of an alternative. And a lot of the delays that we've had aren't really aren't anybody's fault. Really, it's just we've never done anything like this. I know my father has before, but I haven't personally done anything like this. So it's a learning experience for me, and there's things I've learned along the way. But fast forward to this, this time, the lawyer was like, okay, there's a court case. It'd be really good if you're here, just to show that you're committed to this, and you know. So I showed up, and yeah, day of the court, he didn't show up. Funnily enough, neither did his lawyer. I don't think.
Oh, right.
But yeah, but it was interesting. I've never been to a court. I've been to the courthouse before for paperwork and other things, but to actually go into the courtroom, be part of that experience, that's really interesting. So I I I was explaining it to my wife. It reminded me of have you ever seen The Dark Knight Rises? Christian Bale's Batman, the third film.
Which one is that? Like,
It's the one with Bane as the villain.
I thought
The darkness
there
is
was
your
more
ally.
than one.
Well,
I thought there was more than
anyone,
one like that.
if anyone is familiar with that film, Bane, the villain, kind of takes over Gotham, and they start doing like this court. There's a court scene where they're like all the villains, like Scarecrow's the judge, and they're basically doing this expedited justice system in a courtroom, and it's just chaos and it's chaotic. And that is essentially what it reminded me of. So if you ever Google that, you see that clip on YouTube, just put, I don't know, Dark Knight Rises, whatever. You'll know what I mean. And the reason I say that,
The Gotham is modeled off Tunisia.
yeah. So it wasn't like there was no like I've been to court in the UK when I was in the police, and that felt very much like okay, this is the court, this is the session, this is who, this is this is the case. Everybody argue your points. This was more like preliminary hearings, I suppose, but it was a lady judge with her male, I don't know, assistant, but they're all wearing the judgy clothes, so I don't know what everybody is. And they're sitting on the big desk, and there's stools in front of them, and it's just packed. The stalls are packed. There's people standing all around the circle, and they'll just call out. She's got a stack of files, like all the way above her head, like up here.
Oh, wow.
And she's going through the files one by one. So she grabs a file, looks at it, goes, I don't know, Abdul Qadir and Ahmed. And they'll come to the front, and then she'll be like, "What's going on? Why haven't you it'll be like, why haven't you paid this and that? Oh, I can't. Why can't you? Oh, this and that. She writes a few things. The guy next to her's writing a few things, and she'll go, boom, come back on this day, next file. And in front of everyone, obviously, and it's like, and then anyone who's got lawyers, the lawyer will jump in. Anyone who doesn't, they just come in themselves. At one point, they brought in prisoners, so there was a couple of prisoners, and it was it's like the domestic abuse cases, or you haven't paid money case, or you've been absconding court cases, and why haven't you, or stuff like that. Very, So there was that element. As far as the aesthetic of the courtroom, behind her, you'd think there'd be like a whole Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim thing or something, But there's this big portrait of the coat of arms of Tunisia, and I was just sitting there looking, and I was like, damn, what a shame. There's nothing here. I know it's not ruled by Sharia. There's nothing here to even evoke a fear of God. There's nothing here to. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, there's no like Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let's be mindful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is whatever. So there's no. I didn't feel any of that. So it was kind of like a circus a bit to me. The least I would assume they'd have is like maybe some sort of portrait that reminds people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you're in a court and whatever, you're trying to emulate some form of justice. But no, I didn't feel that.
They didn't even have the president's picture.
Yeah, well, at least it wasn't that. I thought, wallah, like it's good you said that because I thought it could be worse. I said they could have a portrait of him. I haven't seen any portraits of him like they did back in the old days. I
Okay.
haven't seen stuff like that, so I don't know. Maybe that's an improvement. Anyway, at one point they must have called us up, but I didn't realize they did. I was expecting to hear my name, but they called my lawyer instead. So my lawyer went up,
Right.
and then I could hear he's got a really deep voice. So I couldn't hear him very well talking to the judge, and there's a lot of people there. But eventually, I realized that the judge is asking him if I'm here. So he's like, "Oh," waving me to come forward. So I come up to the stall, and it's like a little stall in front of the benches, and like between the benches and between the judge. And you're like, it's like you've been shimmied in like cattle. It's like this little stall. There's police
Okay.
on either side. They're like, so I'm in there, and she's like, "Oh, when are you leaving?" I was like, "I'm leaving on the 15th, man." Didn't say man, but I'm leaving on 15th. It's like, oh, okay, because she's trying to expedite it before I leave, which was nice of them. I've
Yeah.
flown all the way out here. Can we get this done quickly? She's like, is he here? She calls out his name. Everybody's like looking around. It's like,
No.
guy's not here. Anyway, she's like, all right, I'll let you know, whatever. She's like, sit back down. So I sit back down. And then they carry on with more cases. I was like, is that it? Like, what happens next? The lawyer comes to me and he's like, afterwards, he's like, oh, in an hour when they've shut up shop, go to the desk and ask them when your private meeting is. So you have like a private meeting with the judge and you bring witnesses with you. So if you've got any witnesses.
Okay.
So fortunately, we had one witness, which was the lady that was receiving the rent. Great.
Yeah.
Then we had another, then actually, pause on that. We had that witness, the lady. So, okay, let's find out what day we're going to come back. An hour later, you go to the desk. Hey, when do I have to come back for this thing? They have a look at their book. They're like, so this was a Thursday. They go, come back tomorrow, Friday. We'll tell you tomorrow. Tunisia is the land of come back tomorrow. That is
The whole
Tunisia in a
Arab
nutshell.
world, man. Yeah.
Maybe the whole Arab world. So I'm like, okay. I had
In
other
some countries
shenanigans.
they say bukra. In some countries they say ghadwa.
It's it. It's it. And, anyone thinking of going to the Muslim world and living there or whatever, or Arab world, get ready for come back tomorrow's. Let me get my bearings. So yeah, I came back on the Friday. I had other things to do. There's lots of things to do when I go there. So had other things to do. Fine. Came back on Friday. Hey, I've come here for the thing. When is it? Have a look at the notes. She hasn't done it yet. Can you come back on Monday? Great. All right. So Monday is going to be my last week. I leave on Saturday morning. So that's going to be the last week.
You got 5 days.
Yeah. Weekend, I didn't have anything to do on the weekend because all the idarat are closed. Went to the mountains and got some spring water and, visited family members. Monday comes around. I go there on Monday. Hey, so I came last week. What's happening?
They're like, you actually came back?
She has a look at her notes. You're going to have to come back tomorrow.
Oh, man. That's
So I'm
pretty,
like,
that's cheeky, bro. 3 times.
so my mother's with me and I look at my mom and like, they're saying come back tomorrow. My mom, I think it was either my mom or me. I can't remember who, but we were like, no, we're not going back tomorrow. We need to know now. Like, it's getting silly. I was like, listen, I'm leaving on Friday. I'm leaving on Friday would be my last day. So I basically said I'm leaving Friday because I'm leaving Saturday morning, really, at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm leaving Friday. Like, I need this done. She's like, oh, really? Okay, let me have a look for you. So she goes back somewhere, blah, 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 running around. Comes back. She goes, Thursday. I got you a time on Thursday. So what time on Thursday? She goes, can't tell you. I was like, what do you mean you can't tell me? She goes, well, after the court cases are done on Thursday, you can go and see the judge. I was like, okay, so what time do you think that is? Can't say. Just come in the morning and wait. I was like, so all my witnesses have to, well, any witnesses I have to come. Yeah. Okay, fine.
Wow.
Call up the lady witness. Hey, guess what? You know that witness statement you did for us? Thanks so much for that. You need to come on Thursday and present yourself and whatever. Oh, can't do that. Sorry.
Oh man.
I was like, what do you mean you can't do that? Oh, well, my husband's got a doctor's appointment and I'm going to the capital and whatever, all these
Got a
excuses.
bride's hair to cut.
Well, so I was like, oh, damn. So the lawyer tells the lawyer that. The lawyer's like, oh, no, she's like the key to the whole case. She can vouch for the fact that he lived there. She can vouch for the fact that he paid rent. Because his argument was, I don't live there. That was his initial response to the being summoned to court.
Yeah.
If we said that he didn't live there and he's just broken in, he would then say he does live there, and then we'd have to prove that he doesn't. So you got to pick your poison, which one you're going to go with.
Yeah.
So we said he
Right.
does. So the lawyer's begging her on the phone, please. I even recorded it because I just found it so depressing. He's like, oh, I knew Murad, my dad. He's like, I knew Murad. This is an amana. Like I knew he was going to pass away, and this is his kids, and I'm trying to do this for his son and his family. And please, like, I beg you. And anyway, she's like, I'll see. I'll have a look. I'll see. Anyway, meanwhile, we had another guy who's a friend of my dad's. We told him about it. He's like, oh, I know so and so, the tenant. I'll go and speak to him. Don't you worry about it. He went over apparently to speak to him. He called him. He came down. They had a little conversation. He's like, what's going on? Like, Murad was my friend and I know who you are as well. And why aren't you paying? He's like, it's nothing to do with you. My business. I'm not going to pay it, whatever. I don't know. And this guy was like, that's so disrespectful. You know what? I'm going to go and write a witness statement against you. So the tenant is like, oh, do what you want. It's fine. Do what you want. So as my witness is walking away, he gets a phone call from the guy. He's like, listen, if you write that witness statement, you're going to have problems.
Oh, really?
Now, this guy works in the council, so he could do some problems. He could, whatever. He's going to be well connected. Anyway, so he ended up writing a statement. Good for him. Fortunately, that day, we were waiting for him to go to the there's another council building where you sign statements. Me and my mum are waiting. We're waiting to give this guy for this guy to come so we can help him and tell him, listen, this is a situation. This is what you should probably put in your statement and whatever. We're waiting outside the building, and I'm standing with my mum. I look behind my mum like this, and I see the tenant guy walking towards us. He doesn't realize it's us, right? I'm like, hey mum, look, your friend's over there. She's like, what do you mean? And I was like, oh, look. She turns around. She goes, is that him? I was like, yeah. May Allah bless my mother, man. My mum went into like viper mode. So I go up to the guy and I'm like talking to him. Yeah, well, I went up to the guy, started trying to speak to him. I was like, I said his name. I don't want to bait out his name here, but I just said his name. I was like, it's me. You know who I am. He's like, oh, Abdurrahman? Ahmed? That pretend he doesn't know who I am? I was like, you've got to be joking. And then my mum just kicks off. She's like, Muhammad Murad ibn this, ibn... Like, she gave my whole lineage.
Yeah.
And she was just like, how dare you تاخذ في فلوس اليتامى, taking the wealth of an orphan. I don't consider myself an orphan, but apparently that's what some people consider us as.
That card.
I'm a grown man. Like, does everyone's father, everyone whose dad dies, is they automatically an orphan?
It's all about emotional appeal. Brother.
It's the emotional appeal. But everybody says it like that because they see me and my sisters as like, miskin people because we're from England and we might not know how things go and all that. True. So they kind of like, but even my youngest sister, she's like 21. So she's not really a baby. Anyway, we'll use the narrative that suits us.
Yeah, exactly.
So he started getting all rattled. I was like, I heard you might be paying rent at a Dropbox kind of place, like a tax office. Are you doing that? He's like, it's between me and the court. I was like, you're a wind-up artist. Like, you're driving me nuts. Like, I was getting frustrated. Yeah. Anyway, my mum got really like lippy with him. He started packing up. He was like, do you know what? I'm going to call the police. Come with me to the police. We're going to go to the police station right now. So I just let him walk off. because I haven't got time to entertain his nonsense because he's just going to delay me and distract me. Funnily enough, the police station he was walking to, I'd just been pulled over by the police like an hour before that, and I'd spoke to them about, I think it was an hour before or the day before, and I'd spoke to them. I gave them the usual, "Hey, I'm back. It's me again." They just like to know when I've left or when I'm going, whatever. But when I did
Really?
get stopped by them, I went back into the station. I was like, "Listen, I wonder if you guys can help me. The reason I'm coming back and forth is because of this guy." So I was hoping he
Yeah.
would go there, and then they would know, "Oh, you're the guy who's." Anyway, long story short,
Right.
the guy wrote the statement. Sweet. We had at least one witness. The woman kind of backed out. The lawyer goes, "Hey, there's another friend of your dad's. He'll write a statement for you as well." Call him up. He's like, "Yeah, sweet, no problem. I know your dad, and I know this, and I know that. I'll write a statement." He gets one prepared. The morning of the meeting thing, the woman calls up. She's like, "Hey, I'm coming. Don't you worry. I've sorted it out." So it turns out she wasn't lying. She actually
Okay.
legitimately did have an excuse, and I may
Yeah.
have assumed that she was trying to back out of this. you know, a lot of people don't want to give statements because it's a small town and people know people, and what's the backlash? And as you could see, this guy already threatened my other witness, saying, "Hey, there's going to be problems for you." Anyway,
Yeah.
the day of the meeting, um, went to the judge's office. We waited for a long time for the court sessions to finish, and I could tell that everyone was getting a bit, uncomfortable, and they wanted to leave, and it was taking a while. But I mean, Allah bless them for their patience. They supported us really well. So in the end of the day, we ended up with 3 witnesses when we only wanted 1, which is really good. Went in
Really?
there. Judge spoke to my family first and the witnesses outside. I gave her the whole story. She's taking down notes, writing everything down. Asked me questions. She's like, "Is he here?" I was like, "Doesn't look like it. He doesn't." I said, "He doesn't respect the court. Didn't show up. He didn't show up the first time. He's not showing up now." She's like, "Oh, this is weird. Like, what? This is مش معقول يعني. How could he do this?" Anyway, and then the witnesses came in after us, and then now I'm waiting for a final sort of verdict. So, like I said, that was on a Thursday. Friday, I didn't hear anything. I think maybe some point this week I might hear something. But that is a Tunisian justice system in a nutshell. I know it was a bit of a long spiel, but there was some excitement along the way. And like I said, there's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of you know backward stuff, really. But there is a process, and you just have to follow the process. And sometimes trying to cut those corners can really, backfire on people. For example, I kind of alluded to the judge, like, if he's saying I don't live there, he doesn't live there, surely I can kick the door down and like just go in. Like, that's my property. She just stayed quiet. She didn't want to give me a response. So, okay, I kind of get it. Like, maybe that's illegal. And a lot of that is like similar to squatters' rights in the UK, or like some people suggested cutting off the power. That's like a human rights thing. You've kind of breached like someone's human rights, like you've stopped them drinking and eating and whatever, electricity to their fridge. And so there's that element. The man himself seems to have, rumor has it that he's divorced and he's living there on his own. So even his wife and kids have left him. He's causing nuisance to all the other tenants. He's like, because he's got a balcony, when he's cleaning supposedly his balcony, he's pouring water all over the other businesses underneath and ruining their stock and ruining their stuff. He's just being a absolute nuisance. And it's a shame because I posted about it on Twitter actually. 500,000 people saw the tweet. I don't know why it went viral. And
Oh, wow.
his Facebook was linked underneath. So
Oh,
like
wow.
hundreds of people were writing comments on his Facebook, and his Facebook was awkward because he was posting ayats of the Quran. Allah is not unaware of what the disbelievers do, and
Oppressors.
people were
Yeah.
commenting under that like, how ironic, and fear Allah, ya sadiq, ya this, ya that. And I think I may have put up his WhatsApp at one point, but I deleted it eventually. And
Oh,
people were calling
did you
him.
write this in Arabic? Yeah.
What, my tweet?
Yeah.
No, it was in English. It was in English, but there was a lot of, obviously. I basically wanted him to feel like the walls were closing in on him. After 3 years, and it's not even about the money at this point. I'm not after the money. It's not that the money is we're desperate for it or whatever. Alhamdulillah. It is disrespectful that you've agreed a price and you've just stopped paying for 2.5 years or 1.5 years, however much it is. But it's just the disrespect towards my father. I think that's what hurt me the most from day one, and the fact that you're essentially stealing every month. You're living in a place that you're not paying for, and it's not that you can't pay; it's dirt cheap compared to other places. Honestly, it's half the price of the cheapest places in that town on purpose. My
Wow.
dad rented it to him cheaply because it's the only flat in the block. So he thought if someone's living there, they act kind of like a you know, security guard almost. If there's any
Yeah.
noises at night or wherever, there's someone living there. But if it's all
Yeah.
businesses, you run the risk of, okay, as soon as it hits
Uh,
6 o'clock, the
yeah.
building's completely empty or whatever. Um. Anyway,
You went to school and you studied English, science, you studied maths. Then you went to university, studied engineering, economics, maybe computer science. But where along the line do you ever learn about how to be a man of character, how to be a man that takes action, how to have a resilient mindset, and to build yourself to become a man that you're proud of, especially the Islamic way? Because a lot of men, when they want to learn how should a man act in this situation, especially in 2025, they will either end up going left side to the feminism or right side to the red pill. Well, I wrote a book specifically that cuts through both of those, and it just goes to the source, to Islam, to show you how to be a man of character according to Islam. I've got a free chapter for you in the description. Click that link, check it out, and if you like it, you can get the whole book.
That's
that's
what
that
I'm talking
story.
about, bro. Like sometimes what I say about Algeria is that I, what I don't like, what is really annoying, is where you're not even trying to do anything big, right? You're
Yeah,
not trying
yeah,
to change the world. You're not going to trying to change your city, your country, or build some big business. You're just trying to do very basic things, and there's so many
yeah,
barriers. That is what is very tiring, man. You're trying
yeah.
to do
100%.
basic things, and there's barriers. It's so frustrating.
100%. Yeah, there is. I think a lot about if I was to live there. We have the discussion, me and my wife, quite often. But it's like she's like, well, when you go to visit every single day without fail, you leave at 8 in the morning, maybe sometimes earlier, and you don't come back till the evening when everything's shut because you've always got something to do, you know. And she's like, if we were living there, would that be the same thing? I was like, I don't think so. I'd like to think the only reason I'm doing that all the time is because I'm only there for a short amount of time. I need to do as much as I possibly can. But then when you think
Right.
about it, it's like, how do other people do that? If people are working there, how do you ever get
Yeah.
anything done? If you got working Monday to Friday, what do you just stand in front of a quote unquote queue, which doesn't exist? You got to fight your way through things if you want to get somewhere in a busy day, or come back tomorrow, come back tomorrow. Keep telling your boss, oh no, they told me to come back tomorrow. Oh no, they told me to come back on Monday. Like, how do you function? How does anything get done? And there's always like checks and balances with every piece of paper or any sort of document that
Yeah.
needs signing or whatever. Oh, write the document at this place, go sign it at this place, present it at this place, and get it stamped. Then, like, it's that. And then if you've got,
Well, you know what
if it's a,
you learn eventually to just not accept that, and you just start shouting at people, and you're like,
well,
because sometimes that gets you past some of these barriers.
possibly, possibly,
Sometimes, not
but then,
always, but it's like yeah, that happened to me sometimes. Where like I just follow the rules, whatever I follow. They tell me this is the way. They tell me, oh, you got to come tomorrow. They tell me whatever, but times have come where I'm just like, actually, no. I know I've got leeway here. Everyone knows there's leeway. Like you can make
yeah,
stuff happen, right? So I'm just like, no. And then you either have to start shouting, you have to make your story like very emotional or like there's a big reason why this is affecting me negatively. And then
yeah,
they'll like, oh, actually we can do this for you. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
think a lot
yeah,
of people learn that's the lesson they learn from this is you just gotta force it, you gotta shout, you gotta complain. You sometimes you like I've seen grown men, bro. They just go in a sulk and a bad mood, in
yeah,
order to like try and
yeah,
get their way. It's not
yeah.
that they organically would react like that. It's that they like, okay, maybe this is the way I'm gonna get my way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, most people have been really helpful, and a lot of people's apprehensions is because they don't want to do the wrong thing and then get shouted at or get, mess it up. For example, like I had to pay tax for the year, and I do that every year. and I went to one of the tenants' headquarters up in. It's like a big business, so there's a headquarters up in the capital. And I had to get just one piece of paper to show that they've paid their tax and evidence that to the tax office. And I went there, and they've been giving it to me ever since Dad died. And this time I went up there, and they were like, "Oh, we can't give this to you because your dad's died, and it's in his name." I was like, "Yeah, you gave it to me the last 3 years." It's like, "Oh, no, no, can't give it to you. Sorry." I was like, "Look, this is the one you gave me the last time." He's like, okay, let me have a look. He goes back, comes back with it. He's like, "Oh, here you go." So why did you do that? Because you almost made me
Exactly. You
leave.
see that?
You know?
Imagine you
Yeah.
didn't put. That's what
Honestly,
it is, man.
yeah. He's like, because I had like the year 2021 and 2022 in my hand, and I gave that to him. But because there was no 2023, he was like, "Oh, I can't give it to you." It wasn't until I gave him 2023 that showed him last year they gave it to me. That he was like, "Okay, there's a precedence now for him to do whatever he needs to do." It's just, yeah. And
Yeah.
you just sometimes you do second guess yourself. You're like, "Man, can I actually handle this? Like, can I
Yeah.
do this?"
You know, I was saying
But
to my friend the other day that this kind of stuff, okay, because my brother also had an issue because he's there now, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I always have it in my head, like, these people are born and raised there, they're used to it. But actually, bros, they're not used to it. Like certain
no,
things, they're not
yeah,
used to it. Like, imagine how it would affect you or me who are not used to it. It affects them the same way. The
yeah,
level of frustration, the level of dead end, the dead endness, the feeling of like, well, I just can't do anything then. I just can't
yeah,
get anything done. And yeah, so it's not like, oh, they're born and raised there, they're used to it. For whatever reason, their expectations are different to your expect. But with some things, bro, no, they it kills them, man.
yeah, yeah. And you overhear people's problems and what people are, and a lot of them are just similar problems, whether it's like inheritance stuff or border stuff or tenant stuff or all the same things, and it just shows you that these issues are really prevalent across all of society there. And like I said, when I put up that post, so many people were messaging me and responding to me about similar issues they faced back home, whether it was Morocco, Pakistan, Algeria, Somalia, all over the Muslim world. And look, I get that stuff happens in the UK and stuff, but they're like checks and balances, and I'd like to think it's quite clear what you have to do. And there's a lot of middlemen like estate agents and lawyers and all that stuff that kind of handle that stuff for you. Although I can imagine it being extremely expensive here to kind of do that stuff. And look, there's also
Yeah.
the segment of the population that has no sympathy for landlords and no sympathy for property owners. And I understand that, and I get that kind of feeling. Not that I always agree with it. There's certain hukuk in Islam. I'm not going to go into that whole left wing liberal nonsense that happens in the UK or the West, where it's like, oh, all landlords need to go to hell and whatever. Yeah, I get that argument, enjoy that argument. But in Islam, there's clear obligations that we have to each other. And when agreements are made, that we fulfill those agreements. And like I said, I only had an obligation by the Tunisian standard to give him 3 months, and I gave him like a year and a half because initially I legitimately thought, okay, despite the fact this guy's already given me signals of being a bit of a douchebag and pretending he doesn't know me and stopping paying as soon as my dad died, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and give him time. But there's only so much time you can give someone. There's only so much time you can give someone before they take your kindness for weakness. And you will deal with people like that, unfortunately, in the Muslim world, scammers and people who take advantage. And you deal with people like that all over the world, actually, even Muslims in the West. So just don't be. I've heard of some people that go to a Muslim country to live there and they think, oh, this is it. This is the land of Islam. Like everyone's going to be like really nice and amazing. And most people are. Most people generally, if one thing that really surprised me about Tunisia is actually how helpful people were. Even though the systems in place are really obtuse, the people that are navigating that system are really helpful and supportive. Look, you need to do this, go to this place. If you want me, I'll walk you. If you want, I'll walk you to that office and I'll show you. And you feel like people are helping you, but it's just the systems are so clunky and so, you know. And there is a couple of places you go to and they're like really rude. Why are they so rude? Why they have to talk like that? Clearly, I'm not from here. Like, cut me some slack. But other than that, um, Obviously, money goes a long way. I'm not talking about bribing people. I've never done anything like that. But like, there's a lot of things that cost that you wouldn't expect. The cost, like, hey, this document you wanted to write up, that's 220 dinar, please. I was like, what are you talking about? I mean, I've got it, but other people wouldn't. That's a
Yeah.
lot. You know,
Yeah.
I bet there's like this huge discrepancy. Oh, this document is 20 dinar. Oh, this document is a tenner. But this
Mm.
one that you want, oh, this is a big one. This is 220. And I remember thinking, okay. And I went and asked around afterwards, and they were like, no, that one is like, that's known. So you have to kind of check as well. And I'm
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of doing it with very little, no, like connections and stuff. Like as soon as my dad died, woof,
Yeah.
like all the connections kind of just vanished with him. Unless I just
Yeah.
happen to bump into someone who knows me through him, or you know, he kind of finds out that I'm my dad's son or whatever. But
Yeah.
on the contrary, I know I'm going on a bit. I realized my father did a lot of stuff through connections, not through the usual means. And
Yeah.
that also has its kind of pitfalls because then you never learn how the process is done. And you can get taken advantage of more that way because, for example, tax. There's accountants that do your tax numbers for you. I got an accountant paying about 50 dinar, maybe something like that. Okay. What's that? About 15, 20 quid? Something like that, English money. When my auntie can't read or write, so she would go to someone who before, like when my dad was ill, she would go to someone who was recommended. Oh, go to this guy who'll help you out. You know, whatever help you out means, I don't know. He was charging 1,000 dinar for the same job that this guy's charging 50. You know, and when people
Wow.
find out, like when we found out, we were fuming because she was obviously getting taken advantage of. But because she doesn't really know, she's just
Yeah.
paying it, and she's got the money, alhamdulillah.
Mm.
But she shouldn't have to be taken advantage of like that. You know,
Yeah.
so there's people that will just take advantage of you, and there's people that you know you're thinking you're being helped, but actually you're just being you know taken for a ride. So
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah. Exploited.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, and you know it can happen. It can really happen. I'll give you another example. Like someone came up to me. There's people always people will come up to you and speak to you, and they realize you're not from there, and then they'll ask you for help, or they'll say that there's an issue they're dealing with, and obviously if they're being reasonable, whatever. Someone came up to me once, and I kind of recognized him from the neighborhood. Hey, I'm having issues with, um, uh, like out of the blue. Oh, I'm having issues with this and that. I need money. I was like, oh, okay. What? How much do you need? 1,000, just straight figure. I was like, right. I was
Very
like,
round
may Allah,
number.
may Allah help you. I was like, impossible. I asked my cousin who works. It was like an electric thing. He works in
Okay.
the electric company. I think he had like a bill or something. He's like,
Yeah.
impossible. This guy's got 1,000. Like impossible. He owes 1,000. You know, it's
Um,
just never. It's like yeah, people just take
um,
advantage. You know, people just take
yeah.
advantage. And you could be the charitable guy, and you could say yes to everyone that comes up to you, and you have nothing left for yourself. Like nothing.
Um,
And I'm not
yeah.
saying don't give charity, of course. I think it's really important if you're going to be charitable in a Muslim country is that you ask around for people that genuinely need it. And there are lots and lots of people that genuinely need help, but there are also lots
Yeah.
of
People will
people.
know. People will
People will
know that
know.
they need it rather than them asking for it.
Mm, mm.
It's
Um,
interesting. Like there's a spectrum of let's call it like officialness and non-officialness, right? Like
yeah,
in the
yeah,
UK, everything's official. Like there's an official way of doing things, right?
yeah,
Or like everyone's got an address, and if you want whatever post, it goes to the address, and every address will have a postcode and a street
yeah,
a number and all of that, right?
yeah,
Or like if you want to, I don't know, you want to pay bills, you want to rent a place. There's official ways to do everything, right?
yeah,
I think there's very few things in the UK that don't have an official way of doing it. Then like next on the spectrum, maybe like Turkey. Turkey is pretty, has an official way for most things, and it's definitely more flexible than the UK, but mostly like there's a way of doing things, there's a process, and they follow it. And even by the way, this is something that surprised me about Turkey is that even if they see that you are fresh, bro, you just got
yeah,
here, yeah, you speak nothing except merhaba or something, yeah, they
yeah,
will follow the process mostly. Like very surprisingly, they generally don't exploit you. Maybe like in the tourist area, maybe they would do that, but in normal areas with average Turks, go to a restaurant, they'll charge you the same as everyone else. Go to I don't know, furniture, same price as everyone else. It's all pretty solid. So Turkey's like next on the spectrum. Then you've got Algeria, Tunisia, whatever you just described roughly what it's like. And then my friend told me he just moved from here to Lebanon. Okay, bro, he said Lebanon. It's like one of those apocalyptic movies. Yeah.
Oh
He's
no.
like, there is no such thing as an official way of doing anything. He's like, you know how I
Yeah.
got internet? He's like, there's no way of getting internet. There's no company you call up. There's no company you
Right.
go to their branch or anything. He's like, you just
Really.
have to ask around the neighborhood. You just ask around. Then they're like, yeah, that guy does it. Then what does he
Yeah.
do? So he goes to the guy. He's like, can you hook up my internet? He's like, yeah, yeah. He goes to like a telephone pole and there's like a modem like hanging off it and he like plugs it in and he puts it across the street to the guy's house and he's like, there's your internet. And
Yeah, we
then
ain't that
the
bad.
download
Okay.
speed is like 5 megabits. Like that's the
Right.
maximum you can get.
No way.
Same with the water. He's like, there's no water company you go to. He's like, I needed water in my flat. The water guy. There's a guy who just
Mm.
like comes on a little scooter and he's like, yeah, I'm the water guy. He like goes to the bottom of the apartment block. He's like, do you have a knife or scissors or something? They're like, yeah, yeah, we got a knife. He just cuts a little thing and then the water turns on or something. And this guy does not work for no company. So he's like,
Yeah.
literally, this is what it's like in Lebanon. So Lebanon is a
Yeah.
next level. There's no
Well,
official way of doing anything.
it's it's crazy. Like there are two worlds, though. I mean, I live in the rural areas, and of course, there's going to be a bit of a backwards element of it. And a lot of I go on, I explore the Tunisia Reddit page a lot, and it's a bit of a cesspool of nonsense, to be honest, most of the time. But
Of course, yeah.
sometimes some of the things they're talking about is shows me a bit of like, oh, they're a bit more sophisticated in certain areas, and there's a bit more of a professionalism and stuff. But I went to the capital that day to get that piece of paper, and I went into the headquarters of this big company. Outside, there was two women that were on the floor, like yes, begging, but they were kind of arguing with each other, and I don't know what was going on. I think one was like on the spot of someone else, and it was kind of sad to see. But when you go into this building, big revolving doors, huge skyscraper, um, glass and decoration, everything everywhere, and then there's like this I'd never gone through before. Usually I wait outside the foyer and they give me the piece of paper. This assistant came down. She starts leading me through. She's like, "I'll come with us and come to the offices." Bro, I go over this bridge. There's like they've got indoor waterfall and they've got like a pond or a big pond with a bridge that goes over it and loads of koi fish. So what koi fish doing in
Okay.
Tunisia? I was like, loads of koi fish. I took a picture and I was like, wow, this is where all the money is. It's all these private companies that are like not from around here and stuff. And it was just like I didn't expect to see. Like it's almost like I just got transported into a different country. Um, so there's going to be like these little pockets of like I don't know what to call it. I was going to say pockets of paradise, but I wouldn't go that far. But this this dichotomy of like just outside, there's like literally the city's falling apart, and then you've got these like almost enclaves of just office workers that look like they've just come straight out of Canary Wharf or something. I don't know. Um, so, if anything, like my family were telling me, like it's banks, like it's big banks that have absolutely ravaged the place. Like I was sitting in a bank actually. I had to speak to the bank manager whilst I was in there. Actually, he kind of knows my dad and knows me and stuff, so he was giving me the whole private "I know you, you're my friend" treatment. But whilst I was in there, every 5 minutes, boom, 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 someone knocks on the door. They come in. It's just a random customer comes in and he goes, "Oh, I need a loan." He's like, "How much this time, so and so?" It's like, "How much this time, Abdurrahman?" "Oh, 500 dinar." "Abdurrahman, you haven't even finished the last one." "No, no, I need it. I need it." And then someone else comes in begging. Like it's almost like the manager has to authorize any loans that get paid out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very
Even
like it's
500
almost
dinar, yeah?
informal. Yeah, like 500, 300. And then when I was outside the courthouse, one of the police was just standing outside. So I started chatting with him. He was just saying the same thing. Like, he goes, all these people that you see shopping in Ramadan now, do you think they're shopping with their money? He goes, no, all year round, they don't shop like this. But in Ramadan, they're taking out loans just to just to keep up with appearances. Oh yeah, my fridge is full in Ramadan. Oh yeah, I bought meat in Ramadan. Oh, I'm doing this in Ramadan. I mean, Morocco, for example, the king told them that I think he put a royal decree that they don't have to, or they're not going to do Eid sacrifice, yani, buy lambs and stuff because there's been a drought and it's so expensive and people can't afford it. I don't know Shari'an if that's like a thing, but I assume it is because
What do
I
you
know
mean,
Wali
like
al-Amr and stuff.
they're not going to do it? Who's not going to do
As
it?
in, as in, he's going to do it on behalf of the people. So he's going
Oh,
to, as
wow.
far as I understand it, yeah, he's going to essentially give the sacrifice on behalf of the population because there was a drought and the price
You're
of,
talking about for this
uh,
Eid or the next one?
I assume it's going to be Eid al-Kabir. I think that's what he's talking about. It won't be
Okay,
Eid for
okay.
Ramadan because it's not necessarily a sacrifice there.
Yeah,
But
yeah, sure.
I remember reading that and like all of North Africa. Well, I don't know about Algeria, but this element of like people who want to keep up appearances are essentially putting themselves in more and more debt, and you see that with weddings, you see that with even mainly weddings, really. Every
Yeah,
wedding is built and initiated on a big fat juicy loan from the bank. That's how they can afford to do anything. Cars are so expensive, so every car you see is probably on a loan.
yeah.
Every building you see that's half built is probably on a loan. And I'm not saying that uh, I'm not like saying that people need to just get up their arse and start working hard and stuff. There isn't
Yeah,
really that option for them either. But a
yeah,
lot of
sometimes.
people do stuff that they don't necessarily need to do just to keep up appearances, and I think that's what's really killing a lot of people.
Yeah, for
You know?
sure. Because it's there's a lot less money than let's say the UK, but at the same time, there's probably more pressure than in the UK to be a certain way because it's less of an individualistic kind of society, and it's more
Yeah,
like imagine like in the village, it's like everyone's looking at each other kind of thing, isn't it?
100%.
One thing in
Oh, so
Algeria
and
they
so
have,
built this,
I
and
noticed
yeah,
like quite a lot, is they do parties for everything. They do like,
oh,
this, I don't know, little girl started praying, okay, party. Birthday,
yeah,
party. She passed this exam, party.
really,
They're not expensive, I don't think, but I guess there's something to celebrate. There should be, the guy turned up to the court case, party. I got the paper that
yeah.
I asked for, party.
Let's go. Yeah, yeah, I guess so. It's a lot of it is just big stuff. Like they have this big thing about building the next floor of your house, and like
Yeah,
our house in the village is just one floor, but everyone around us is like, even though they can't afford to finish it, they'll build like the least they'll do is put the pillars up
yeah,
to
yeah,
show
yeah,
that
of
hey, we're
course.
building, we're going to build soon,
Yeah,
it's going to happen.
yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
houses with just the pillars for years and years and years. Some plate people build the whole the brick, so the actual, you know, um,
Yeah,
outer brick or whatever. So it's like it is rooms and stuff, but it's all brick, no paint and no nothing. And
yeah.
they'll just leave it like that for many years. Some people
Hmm.
actually manage to build the whole thing, but it'll just be empty upstairs. They can't furnish it, and some people just build everything. So
Yeah.
depending on what kind of
My
loan they probably got,
my
because
aunt
it's
had a house like that. It's like, imagine, bro, since the first time in Algeria, 2001, 2000 or 2001, I went to Algeria first time, and the house was like that already at that time. It was 5 floors, mashallah, okay? 5 floors, and but only the first floor was like livable, right? Everything else was like just a
yeah,
shell, just yeah, like nothing, not no floor done, just pure bricks. And then on some floors there was bricks and like concrete or plaster or whatever on top of it. And it was like that for years and years and years. Then when her son got married, okay, now they did the floor number two so he can live in that, right? But there's still like
yeah,
3 floors that's left with nothing in it. And it just makes you wonder like why. But it's probably to like show really, because that's really
yeah. I
a
mean,
really big house, bro. And it's like,
yeah,
imagine, bro, like coming from the UK, where UK is supposed to be everyone's rich, right? Bro, people in UK would be shocked at the size of that house. They'd be
yeah,
shocked
yeah,
at
yeah,
that house. That's like
yeah,
that house is like maybe 10 times the size of a house in the UK. Not an apartment, a house in the UK. 10 times. And then they say, oh, I had no word or
yeah. A lot of people are. So I think people like me and you, and people that come from our background, they're not really affected by that keeping up with appearances too much. But when you go there, others don't understand that.
Mm.
So like you'll have like in our building in town, like I said, there's a ground floor, there's a basement, like garages, there's a ground floor and there's a first floor. Okay. But everyone around us, like next to us on our left or right, they have a second floor as well. So there's like three distinct. And then and people will look at ours and be like, oh, it's a shame. Like yours looks so small. You should build just like your neighbors. Like make it bigger, add another floor just like your neighbors. I was like, yeah, I don't need to. It's fine. It's good. It's fine. Like, I might paint the front because it hasn't been painted in a while, and that's what we're doing at the moment. No. You need to add another one. You need to add another one. Like, it looks silly next to these two, and it's like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm not going to take out a load.
What's
Don't make
wrong
me
with
do
this
it.
guy? Ben beli
Yeah.
terlani.
Oh, bro. Or like, some people used to say, like we might have a little share in this piece of field somewhere, maybe inherited from generations. It's like, oh, the field's getting sold. You should buy it. I was like, no, it's fine. The share we've got is good. Like we use that, and that's fine. No. Listen, she's going to put it up for sale. Get a loan out and buy that. Like, what am I going to do with it? It's like, oh, one day you never know. I was like, I'm not going to.
With a loan as well.
I was like, one day you never know what. I'm fine. I'm fine. I get the pressure and like living in that environment, that village environment. Maybe it is. It's tough, man. If you're not from there, and trying to also trying to give patience to your family members that live there who also have to deal with everything, and they're also from there, and they also want the expansion and the bigging and the building and all of that, but you're trying to say, hey, it's fine, we don't need anymore, because you realize that you see a lot of places that are like big empty houses with just one person living there because everyone's died, and it's like all of that for nothing really. All of that, and there's no one, like they don't have big families in Tunisia. People have like 2 kids maybe, and that's it. If you've got 2 girls or 1 girl and a boy, that's it. Like the girl's gone, she's got married, and there's just a boy left, and that's if the boy is a decent guy. I mean, me and my mum were in town the other day in Tunisia, crossing the road, old lady, Miskina, elderly lady, the classic traditional clothing, but her back is really hunched, and she's trying to like drag shopping trolley or shopping basket thing, the wheelie ones, with her, and she's got walking stick at the same time, trying to cross the road. SubhanAllah, we helped her. We said, hey, let's help her cross the road and get to her house. Took her to the other side. Someone she recognized escorted her. My mum asked her, she goes, oh, have you not got any kids at home? She goes, oh, walidi faddar. My son's at home, but he's ragged. He's asleep. I'm thinking, I know exactly what this is. This is a Ramadan youth, who's been up all night and is sleeping all day for Ramadan. And his elderly mother is getting the food from the local market, and she's dragging it across the road trying to get home. And she's really, really infirm. And she's probably going to go home in the kitchen and cook dinner now, and while her son is just sleeping.
And cook a top-notch dinner as well.
Exactly. And there's so many stories of guys like that over there, and guys like that over here, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was really, really heartbreaking because this Rojola is just really lacking. And I'm sure if you sit and speak to that guy, he'll say, oh, ma tammish khidma, ma tammish this, ma tammish that, and he probably takes pocket money from his mum. And you see that so much, and it's like, just get off your ass at least and help your family out. You should be doing the shopping. You should be the responsible party. This victim mentality is just destroying people down there.
Yeah. So, and it is more than in like the UK, even though that does exist a bit in the UK. I mean, there are terrible things of people like living off benefits and stuff in the UK when they don't really need to. But I think in North Africa and stuff, it's like there's like you said, there's that victim mentality where it's like, what can I do? It didn't come to me on a silver platter. What can I do? And also, damn, I forgot what I was going to say, man. But yeah, that's it. In the UK, I feel like there's a lot of pressure and like hunger for dunya. Okay, like there's a lot. Like there's more than in North Africa. So it's like to have those nice things, you gotta like go and make money. Now, some people go make money in like illegal ways in order to fulfill that.
Yeah.
But in North Africa, there's a kind of low standard that you could just stay at, and it's like normal. It's like acceptable. if all you can afford is coffee and cigarettes, and all your friends can just afford coffee and cigarettes, then it's like, yeah, we're all at that low level together. But I feel like
Yeah.
in the UK, there's more like competition for like, yeah, I need that car, I need this, I need like more, you know. And some
There's a
people
big
like chase that via illegal ways and sometimes legal ways as well.
mm, I think there's a big gulf in between the when it comes to the accessibility for goods as well. So like in Tunisia, you could have a bit of money, but there's nothing around you
Mm.
that you can really purchase to show that off. But the stuff that is really like, show offy, whether it's cars or whatever, is so much more expensive that it's just completely inaccessible for people. Um,
Yeah.
so like cars, houses, renting a nice place. Like you can't rent a nice place in the village that we're in or the town that we're in because all the houses are the same. You can't get a really nice car because it's just so expensive. You can't get the latest
Yeah.
technology or whatever because they don't really sell it here. Unless you're going to travel to the biggest city and you've got a lot more money to travel there, to have the access, to stay there, to then maybe in those big cities and stuff, you'll see those kind of things. But the expensive goods are so much more expensive that it's just far beyond the access of people. So
Yeah.
even if you're making money, like a lot of people are content with just, unfortunately, we've got a drinking culture there. A lot of people just like we drinking at night with their mates, and that's what they do. And when I say that, they're not doing it like openly and whatever, but they'll be like, I don't know, under a tree in a field somewhere. There are bars, there are bars there. They're like discreet bars. There's no signs or anything on them. They're like this building and it's very dark inside and you can't really see what's going on. But then when you look, it's like, oh, that's a bar. They're serving alcohol in there. And this is in our town. There's at least two that I know of.
Mm.
There's one that I know of, sorry. And then there's a place that sells it like a warehouse almost down the road. And obviously, I've never
Yeah.
been in there, but you just see it as you're walking past, and it's just like, this is, and you see there's guys in there. Not obviously in Ramadan. I didn't notice in Ramadan. Hopefully, there isn't in Ramadan. But but on any other month, you walk past and you can see like movement, and you can see people in there, and it's just like this is
Yeah.
like my mum will mention sometimes. She'll be like, um, oh, that guy's got such a beard belly. Like, I was like, how do you know he drinks? She's like, don't worry, I know. Like, she might know of guys that drink and might know of, because you hear it. People have a reputation. Or you get in a taxi and someone gets in and you can just smell it and you're like, what is going on here? There's like the hishma is kind of gone. And that's something that really has ruined a lot of villages in Tunisia. I know that even in places in Zaire, it exists. Like when I went to Tizi Ouzou, there was like adverts in like the very Berber areas, Amazigh areas, sorry. There's like adverts for beer and stuff that are like locked off from the rest of the society. That was really,
Wow.
it was quite more acceptable in these areas. Um, and I'm not talking about like the refined bourgeoisie drinkers. I'm not talking about the ones that are having a glass of wine or
Yeah, yeah,
they
I
go
know what
to a
you mean.
bar, like a
Yeah,
proper
yeah.
bar and a disco. I'm talking about like
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
street drinkers. Like, I'm
Yeah,
talking about
that
people like
dirty type. Yeah.
dirty, like farmers that are drinking and they're throwing beer or going out hunting
Yeah,
for
yeah.
wild boar and
Yeah.
drinking. And so it's
Yeah, yeah.
and I don't know the prices, so I don't know how much people are sinking into that as well as cigarettes and smoking because literally everybody smokes. So
Mm.
maybe that's where all their money's going. Maybe that's what's zapping away at people's motivations.
Mm.
Allahu alam, you know.
Yeah, you can see the
Um,
work that needs doing and the work that, yeah, it could be done. Right? It'll be a big uphill battle because it's like if you were
mm,
to go and like have a dawah effort, you can imagine it would be not an
well,
uphill battle. It would be like an up
mm,
mountain battle. I'm not saying because you can't convince people and Allah won't guide people, but it's
yeah, yeah,
because you're coming from another culture and it's like,
yeah.
wow, it's hard. It's
Well,
like
you know
the
what?
whole culture against one man kind of thing.
I
But
must say,
there are obviously local dawah initiatives as well.
of course, I will say, I was in the masjid. Masjid was packed. There was people in the masjid this time round. I didn't even think would ever come to the masjid. There's people that were like dad's generation that are praying. The masjid is full, and there was a Ramadan atmosphere that I'm thinking maybe the masjid's full because of Ramadan. This is great to see. People that I grew up with, like I went to school with when I was there, and now leading Taraweeh. I was like, that's amazing. Like there is that journey. There are people having this. The khutab are not. They're not. What's the word? Sanitized. in a way. Like they are talking about these vices. He was talking about cigarettes. He was talking about alcohol. It wasn't like, oh, alcohol is fine in the country, so I'm not going to talk about it in the khutbah. Even though these are imams that are, um, I guess they're agreed upon by the authorities. I don't want to say, the only reason I say that is because there was a imam before, and he got into a bit of a dispute with one of the worshippers. The imam was right, by the way, and somehow he was removed from the post, and this another imam had to be put there. So there is obviously it's a Muslim country, and there are going to be authorities that control these kind of things and initiate these kind of things, and councils and stuff. But even them, what I'm saying is like they would address the vices of the population. You know, they wouldn't shy away from telling people not to gamble or not to smoke cigarettes or not to drink alcohol. Fasting as well. You know, Tunisia is known across North Africa as the country that has the most people that are fathering and that don't care about that. If you go to the capital and you walk down the high street and interview people like they do on that TV show, you'll get all sorts of various opinions. But where I'm from, even the alcoholics will fast and they'll maybe have a drink like it's such an ingrained part of culture that adults not fasting is so weird and like you're shunned. Even if you drink alcohol, even if you're so it's one of those things.
It reminds me of
like
this. Actually, there's a YouTube channel, a Turkish one, and it's like a cooking channel, and I've seen on that cooking channel them drinking alcohol, and then I saw a video where it's like released in Ramadan, and then they tasted the food by accident, and then they're like, oh, they went and spat it out. I was like, oh damn, these people that drink are fasting. But yeah, I think I'm like, I can't give you an approximate number as to how many people in Turkey fast. I'm just gonna assume it's like 90%, 80%. It's like, it's a lot, I think. But it reminds me of that hadith where roughly the Prophet ﷺ said, you know, the one who, you can help me out with this, but it's like the one who all he does is not eat or drink, etc. Then Allah has no need of his fasting or whatever. So it's like, imagine the one who fasts just because it's just a thing, it's just a society thing. Like they're actually like depriving themselves for what? Like if you're gonna deprive yourself, do it for Allah. But some people, bro, you got to think about it. Like they're actually not doing it for Allah. They're doing it because just society is like that. They're fasting. You know what I mean? And I know that I can tell that most people do fast in Turkey because at Maghrib time in Ramadan, the road is empty. You know, no one's driving, no one's getting on with their work or whatever. So I can tell it's like a societal thing. Like you can imagine, everyone's at home at Maghrib time, they're eating. But there would be a portion who, I see a lot of people smoking and all of that. Maybe they don't consider that breaking their fast or something.
Right.
But there would be a portion who are not even doing it for Allah. And Allah yahdihum, but we have some different society one. But imagine, bro, can you fathom, bro, because Tunisia is a unique country in terms of how hardcore the secularism was pushed over there, right? And can you imagine like the state of these people who did that? Like what's his name? Bourguiba, right? Bourguiba, or like in the Central Asian countries, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, those countries, Albania, like some of these dictators, they did a pretty good job of wiping Islam out of that society, man. Can you imagine?
They're looked at a lot of the time. They're looked at a lot of the time with rose-tinted glasses. Like people forget. Like I kept seeing that rhetoric of people would say, oh, things was so much better in the past, you could do this and do that, and there wasn't this sense of fear and blah blah blah. I was like, but I would literally say this to him. I was like, you went on the streets. I was like, you went on the streets and kicked him out. Like clearly it wasn't. Like you're looking at the past as if it's a great thing. Like, oh, Bourguiba, if it wasn't for Bourguiba, we'd all be French. I was like, okay, but because of Bourguiba, this and that and this and that, they'll talk about Zin al-Abidin. Oh, back then we had this and that, and I was like, and I would get locked up for praying in the masjid. Now we've got this and that, but it's like nothing's ever good enough. We just need like benevolent dictators, bro. That's what we need. We need a decent dictator That's what a lot of North Africans need. Obviously, we need more than that. But I'm saying in terms of the spectrum of dictators, you need someone who's going to stay long enough to rectify things, because every time there's a shift or a change, it just devolves into chaos. And that's
Yeah,
like, for
that's
example,
yeah,
like
that's what a lot of people are like.
during the Thawra, during the revolution, a lot of the office workers and people that worked in councils and stuff, they just started stealing. They started building. Like, there's this rumor that this guy that works in the council, the guy that rented from us, there's a
Ah,
rumor that during the Thawra, during the revolution, he built a he built a Imara in like 3 days. Obviously not 3 days, but really quickly. Like, where did that money come from?
okay.
Suddenly, so
Ah,
people are convinced that he stole money from the state during that whole mess.
right,
Because what happened is, like,
right.
even the tax office got burnt down. So
Oh,
they burnt a tax office down, and the tax office started renting like near us or in our building. I can't remember, and then they had to move. So, like, things. Imagine all the tax paperwork, papers, bro. Like, we're
yeah,
a
yeah,
paper society. Like,
yeah,
everything's just
yeah.
got burnt
True.
to shreds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Whoops! You don't know my
yeah,
tax bill now.
don't know my tax bill. Don't know who owes what. I don't know. Like, the courthouse. Actually, like I said, there's no digital. I mean, even the court in England is very paper based, but police system in England is still paper based a lot of the time. America is very forward when
Yeah.
it comes to that. UK is like, you're still doing files. You're still presenting court hearings in person, and they started doing stuff digitally now, but the court stuff, the witness stuff, you can't just record a witness statement and watch the statement. Everything has to be on paper. Everything has to be signed. Everything. So it is an archaic system. So imagine that system in North Africa and have fun with that. Um,
Yeah,
so
I
yeah,
think based on
there's a lot
our
to do.
history, our culture, yeah, we need somebody who has a bit of an iron fist, but then they use the iron fist in a good way. Yeah, makes sense, really. Makes sense. Have you
Yeah,
seen?
democracy.
This is a very what's the word? Topical. Did you
Yeah,
hear about the new Syrian constitution?
I saw a tweet. I think
Ah,
I think it was about
okay,
it
that's
being
it.
based or sourcing the legislation from the Sharia, and not explicitly, but that's
Ah,
similar to every other state, more or less, the Muslim world.
hmm.
Same kind of terminology. They'll say things like "it's
Yeah.
based on."
Well, yeah, yeah.
They won't say it
Yeah,
is.
that's
It'll say
what.
it's based on, or it's
Um, so yeah, they released the constitution, which is not. I don't think it's the final version. It's just like the initial
right.
version, and they named like a committee of 7 people who are gonna come up with it or whatever. And so I was discussing it with my friends. We had a heated argument about it.
Ooh,
And yeah, so Article number 3. Obviously, this is the Constitution is a very big deal, right? For
yeah,
like people listening, like when it comes to whether there will be real change in Syria in a good direction, making sure that from now on Syria will be solidly in built in an Islamic image, if you like. A lot of that comes down to the constitution, so it's very very important. Even if all, like not all, but a lot of aspects of Sharia are not implemented, they're delayed, whatever. That's acceptable compared to the constitution being right from day one, right? So, because the constitution is very difficult to change, it's something that needs so much, so many, what's the word? Checks and balances in order to make changes to it, right? It's like basically the source of all future laws that are going to come out, and
right.
it's where the judges are going to look to, and they're going to be like, well, if we look at the constitution, it says this, therefore I'm going to judge this way, and now that becomes a
Yeah,
precedent, and then future cases
yeah,
will be judged like that. So it's very, very, very important that they get it right. Okay, so Article number 3, it says two things in it. And this is like the big debate. Like a lot of people are debating this, like scholars, different Syrians, etc. So first, it says that the president of Syria must be Muslim. Okay, must be Muslim. So
yeah.
fair enough, whatever. Okay, but and then it says, if I remember it correctly, this is how much I discussed it. I memorized it. It says, الفقه الإسلامي هو المصدر الرئيسي هو المصدر الرئيس للتشريع. Okay, so the Islamic jurisprudence or Islamic law, whatever, is the main source of legislation. Okay. Question is, like you said, a lot of Arab constitutions, they have this kind of this flavor of sentence in it. So
Yeah.
what was the version of this in Bashar's time? Like 2012, I think they had a new constitution or they made amendments to it, whatever. So what was the 2012 one? What did that say? It said الفقه الإسلامي مصدر رئيسي للتشريع. Okay. So it is a bit different, right? So that basically means that Islamic jurisprudence is a main source of legislation,
Right.
versus now it says it is the main source of legislation.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were debating whether this is clear enough. Is this black and white enough, or does it leave room for loopholes? And people say,
Yeah.
well, it's saying it's the main source, but there are other sources, and we can reference that. And so,
Yeah.
like one of my friends was saying, no, it has to say the only source, right? And
Okay.
then other people are saying, no, it's clear that if you say it is the main source, especially with the definitive, it means everything. You would have other sources, but they're subordinate to the
Yeah.
Sharia, right?
That makes
To
sense.
the
Yeah.
Islamic law. So I don't really know, because this is like legal stuff, right? But I was talking to ChatGPT with it afterwards, and they were saying like, yeah, if it's worded like that, and especially if it's like Article 3, like one of the earlier
Yeah.
articles, then it means that everything else would be subordinate to that kind of sentence, that phrasing.
Yeah.
So we'll see, bro.
That makes
There
sense to me
was
though.
what part of it?
Just the fact that, yeah, you've got the main source, because you'll always
Yeah,
need alternative. You always, not alternative, but you always need other sources to draw legislation from when it comes to areas that the Sharia
yeah,
might not have explicitly addressed. And that
yeah,
otherwise you could essentially then counteract any law that's passed that doesn't come from the Sharia, that does also have a precedent, and say, well, we don't need laws like this. For example, traffic laws or whatever. Oh, the Sharia doesn't
mm.
have a clear thing. I mean, you have the preservation of
Yeah.
life, and
But
you could go
what they
into
were
that.
arguing was that if you said it's the only source, the Sharia includes stuff like la darara wa la dirar,
Of
right? No,
course,
there
of
shouldn't be
course.
harm and all that, or logic or whatever. So that's what they were saying. But yeah, I don't know in the end. A lot of it also, what ChatGPT was telling me was that it sounds like the Sharia is supreme in the wording it is, but it would also kind of depend on how the judges, kind of interpret it, and if the
Yeah.
initial precedents that are set are in that way, then it could be kind of solid in that Islamic direction. There are also, I don't know. For example, there's another article which says المواطنون متساوون أمام القانون, right? So all citizens are equal under the law,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, in the Sharia, like Muslims and non-Muslims are not equal in the country, but under the law is what I was thinking. Under the law, maybe it just means like, okay, you're an Alawi, you need a witness for whatever to prove whatever. I'm a Muslim, I need a witness. So maybe it just means like that under the law. But yeah, some people are saying no, this is not good enough. This is not like the criteria of the Sharia. That it's just like, yeah, everyone's equal. What else was there? There's also another article which says, unless a law is removed or changed, then it would from the previous constitution or previous laws, then it's gonna stay in. It's gonna stay basically. But I think that makes sense temporarily. You can't just delete all laws and start from scratch, I don't think.
I
So
think a lot of this
yeah,
stuff is
I don't
like
know, man.
it's without sounding too dismissive. There are people of knowledge that
Yeah.
are obviously clearly on the board, and I've seen photos of them, and people that are advising, and it's above our pay grade as people sitting in coffee shops and stuff. That's the thing. Like, it's such a
Oh, for sure.
huge
Yeah.
thing, and I don't like people that are like, I appreciate your response actually, and I appreciate the other people, but the people are like, no, it needs to be this. That's it. It's like you're operating on just like the tiniest smidge of information. You don't know. You don't have the wider spectrum. You don't know. You don't have all the cards, as Trump would say.
Mm.
Like you, you,
Yeah.
you're operating on what you've seen at face value of the information. You're not even in Syria to even say what it's like on the ground, let alone behind closed doors, and appreciate the pressures and whatever
Yeah.
aspects are being juggled. So I think we should
Yeah.
take the wins that we've got. Like if we see obvious wins and see obvious progress, we should celebrate those and make dua for Syria and for the leadership, and hope and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides them to the right path and take them from strength to strength. And like right now, you're seeing like, they're getting help from Turkey, they're getting help from the Khalij, they're getting help from even Europe. Germany announced 5 billion funding thing or whatever.
I think it was
Like,
Belgium.
I can't remember. But either way, it's Europe, and it's like, what are the conditions of those? What does that entail? How much sovereignty do they really have at this stage? So and it's a very hostile environment, like that neighborhood right now. Within
I mean,
even
you saw
Syria.
the bombing they just did last night.
Exactly. It's exactly. And it's like, imagine you're spinning all those plates. How much can you achieve? Now, there are some people that are firm believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they believe that if you do everything 100% correctly, then Allah will open the doors for everything else. Okay, and there's those people that have that opinion.
Definitely.
But it's very different thinking like that from the outside and actually operating like that within the situation itself.
Yeah, your neck's on the line, literally.
yeah, your neck is actually on the line. So how do you tie your camel and have tawakkul in that situation?
Me personally, I'm reserving full judgment because, firstly, like you said, we don't know a lot of things. Secondly, because this constitution is not the final constitution, so it will take time for them to come with the final one. So let's see what happens. I'm also waiting to see what scholars say, different scholars. One scholar I know who's in Syria, he kind of said that they need to make sure that scholars take a look and judge this constitution rather than just this committee. Another one was like very much against, I think, some of these articles that I discussed. And then another one said it's clear and it's fine. So we'll see what comes out over time. But one thing that I am quite certain of is you can kind of be progressive with a lot of parts of the Sharia. This is what I've learned, Yani. You can be progressive with it and implement it in stages. But something like the Constitution has to kind of be black and white. Even if you're not going to implement that straight away, but the statement and the clear intention, that would actually be the main thing that actually Allah would now give you the support, because you've openly put it down in paper, black and white, that we're going to run it in a way that pleases Allah. Then whatever comes after that, Allah will help you with that. And that's the theory. So that's something that I'm just like, there's so many challenges, there's so many pressures. But if there's one thing to get right, I think it's the Constitution. Wallahu a'lam, we'll see what happens. May Allah, aid them and help them.
Yeah.
They just got, Israel was bombing them, as we know, since December. But they weren't necessarily hitting people or near where there are people. But last night they hit a place where, the usual, bro, scenes like from Gaza where children are being killed in the bombing. I don't know how many were killed, but multiple were killed from a bombing, man. So it's very tough.
Absolutely. May Allah have mercy on people of Syria and aid them. I mean, you've got not just that, you've got from all sides, you've got the Assadists that are, still hurt at the loss that they've faced. You've got Hezbollah and Iran and that kind of thing. And you've got even, the Europeans and Americans that are trying to usurp and take advantage of the fact. And I don't envy the leadership there. I don't envy the situation that they're in. And I think you've got to respect the challenge. And, so many people have died to get to where they've got to. And the priority now is to kind of secure their borders, have some stability, so then they can build on what they've achieved so far. Because without stability, you can't control anything. You can't imagine sheep without fences, and that's just everywhere. Like trying to control one thing, you can't, because everything is flying everywhere. That's the analogy. So get your fences up, get some stability. And then you can start, okay, let's address each sheep at a time, each topic at a time, I can't imagine running a family can be challenging, let alone running an entire country. I don't know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses some people. And I think that's why I think to myself, I make dua for them, because I can't imagine facing Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah And obviously, there's good leaders and bad leaders and better leaders and worse leaders. And there's people that are sincere in bad positions and the people that are insincere in good positions. And there's a whole spectrum. And Allah knows
Yeah.
best the true nature of someone's heart. And it's just like, I would not want to be facing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, being responsible for millions of people. You know? Because even the
100%.
thought
Yeah.
of my children, even the thought of my being questioned over my children is terrifying, let alone the millions and millions
Man.
of people, you know. So
Yeah.
scary stuff.
It's one of those
Scary
things,
stuff.
high risk, high reward, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Oh.
Yeah.
All right, man. I think I have to end it there, inshallah.
Let's wrap it. Next time we speak will be after Ramadan. We're heading into the last 10 days. It's gone very quickly from my perspective.
Definitely. Ooh.
You know, the issue I spoke about with the reading Quran and distractions and all that. You know what my
Yeah.
hack has been?
Go on.
So I went to this masjid to pray Fajr, and then afterwards I'm like, okay, let me see if I can read. And in that masjid, they read the juz before Fajr, before they pray Fajr. So they finished, like with the whole microphone, they finished that. But there's another group there, and they're just reading full volume, man. So I like can't concentrate. I'm like battling. I read my bit and I left. Next day, what did I come with? AirPods, bro. Noise cancellation, bro.
Say no more. Yeah, that's
and
it.
it actually
That's
worked, yeah.
Brilliant.
So
there you
that's
go.
what I'm doing.
I usually just get some time and read. Like, even if the kids are in front of me or whatever, I can kind of push through. But if not, like when I was in Tunisia, if I was like waiting in the court, waiting for my turn, I'd just be reading. As long as I do my just a day, I'm not trying to overextend because I'll burn myself out. But just a day, you know, it takes what, 30, 40 minutes. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. May Allah accept, man.
Ameen. Right, let's go.
Okay. Yalla, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
It's not headphones. Oh, I nearly pressed leave for real. Stop.